Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner Classic Lesson Room Classics. This is episode number 2170 and Doubleshot number 2064. Now, with this one we have basically a League of Superheroes trade and Iron Man Epic Collection. First up we have is Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes Volume 2. Yep, this book contains issues Superboy and Legion of Superheroes 241 to 258, along with Legion of Superheroes Volume 2, Issue 259, which is the start of this era, along with also DC Universe Presents, I think it's DC Presents issues 13 and 14. It's just basically two issues where the Legion of Superheroes managed to get started in the series, also from Superman. Mostly put these issues written by Paul Levitz, Jerry Conway, and I think that's it for writers. Let's see. Now, when I did last video, I had to basically stop briefly because, well, other stuff. So, the first story from Superboy 241 is by Paul Levitz. The backup story, Paul Levitz and Paul Kupperberg do it. Yep. Mostly it's all Paul Levitz and maybe Paul Kupperberg joining as a writer for these issues. We do have Lean Ween on issue number 245, who does the opening story and the backup story. He also does 247. Paul Levitz takes back over with the backup story for 247. Jerry Conway takes over as a writer from 248. And then, of course, basically the opening story and the backup story by Paul Kupperberg. Now, for 250, the whole story is one issue. It's done by Steve Apollo, who also does the artwork, and Paul Levitz. Now, Steve Apollo is one of two artists that does this issue. Of course, David Hunt. Steve Apollo, of course, same thing with issue number 251. Steve Apollo on the writing artwork, Steve Hunt on the finishes, and Paul Levitz on the writing. Back to Jerry Conway for issues 252 and 253. DC Universe Presents, number 13 and 14. It's Paul Levitz. For 254, it's Jerry Conway. So it's 255, 256, 257, and 258, even after the book is relaunched in 259. Basically, it's still, Jerry Conway. The artist is mostly issues is most like Alvo Jones. Bob McLean is inking for issue 241. James Sherman is the majority artist in here with Joe Stanton. Also with, mostly Joe Stanton for a lot of these issues. Yeah, so mostly for these issues are mostly all standalone issues. That's most of this area is still standalone, but the next trade I'll talk about for Legion, which is the next comic corner, that's actually a couple story arcs. This one, Fighting a Brain, is a Paul Levitz issue. Yep. Fighting a Brain for a standalone issue, and there's actually this is mostly involves basically a peace conference, an issue between the UP and the Dominators. Yes, and of course the people trying to sabotage it, and that's just the main story. The backup story just involves Timberwolf and Lightning Lass, and the main villain of the story is Lightning Lord. Well, Lightning King, mind you, who is Lightning Lad and Lightning Lass's brother, excuse me. Yep, it's a very interesting one. Of course, we continue with, they have the whole politics thing with, then we have Wildfire, not liking politics very much, so basically try to investigate, and of course, they try to hamper, of course, yeah, and it turns out that, they're all this, Earth is basically being invaded by the Dark Circle. Well, mostly anyways. Yep. But this definitely is, it's a really good story. I kind of forgot this. Yeah, it's not mostly, I think it starts to stand alone and we got to stand arc here. Basically, like I said, it was mostly a Lightning Lass story. Yep, and then of course, basically, we kind of wrap up with issue number 243. Yeah, and also, when the book is relaunched, when named Superboy Drop title, books come giant sized for a lot of the time. So they deal with the alien invasion, of course, and of course Superboy is here. It's a good action-packed story arc. which is fantastic. And by the way, while the Legion is off-world, then apparently we have retired Legionnaires, Lightning Lad, Center Girl, Bouncy Boy, and Duo Damsel. Fun fact, Bouncy Boy at this point in time got his powers back in 230. Lightning Lad, Center Girl just recently got married and had to retire. So, yeah, so it's kind of wrapped up with 244. It's an excellent four-part, and I think it's 45, I think it is mostly with the Aftermath. Of course, they do make an alteration to the charter, which, yeah, I'm sure the writer probably felt this all the whole, well, I'll get to that. So, it's a good action story, and of course, peace achieved. Yeah, and of course, oh crap, I kind of forgot. I thought it was right at that issue. Nope. Now it's Mordred, a Master of the Earth with 245. Yep. Yeah, then of course, basically, at the end of 245, they make them into the Charter. Basically, married members can stay members of the Legion. Basically allowing Lightning Lad and Saturn Girl to join the Legion. Yep, which means marriages can happen. Now, I'm sure probably the writer of this issue probably felt as though that particular rule was outdated at this point in time. Yep. Now, you might be thinking, who did that issue? You're probably asking who did 245? Who wrote that into the main story? About the answer right now. The answer is, I think it was Conway. No, it's Paul Levitz. Yep. Paul Levitz basically is responsible for getting rid of that stupid amendment, which has been in place since the late 50s. Yeah, I think the reason why he got rid of this point in time, and this, of course, is basically around the 70s-ish. Let me take a look here. I think at this point in time, yeah, this was released in November of 1978. Now, the only reason why they did this because they decided to come out of retirement and help out the Legion. We're like, oh, they get divorced? No, I think that maybe Paul Levitz probably felt this at this point in time. That the whole thing of Legionnaires who are married can't be part of the team. At this point in time, because this is 1978 when this issue came out, he probably felt as though, prior to this, because it's probably written in maybe 1977, he probably felt as though the concept was outdated. So, changed it. And here's the thing. Apparently, this is not ultimately a book, and this is still active this very day. Yep, though Bouncy Boy and Duo Damsel are still retired. So yeah, 246 is mostly a standalone issue. I believe it is. Yeah, because of all the return of the Fatal Five, who supposedly died back in 230. Yep, but here they are, alive and well. Yep. Oh yeah, I thought this was, 245 was the end of a story. We have another story here with the Fatal Five, and it's not, so, wait, Nick, are you contradicting yourself with that thing? Oh, I thought it was standalone, the multiplier. Yeah, I read these issues since yesterday, so, then we had the backup story dealing with the whole Legion 247 special, basically the debut of their... So basically it's a two-parter, not a story arc per se. It's just a quick two-parter, wrapped up with 247. Yeah, this is nothing unusual, and of course they elect a new member. Of course, the backup story is mostly about electing a brand new leader of Legion. Who is it? Lightning Lad. Yep, Lightning Lad. And by the next Legion trade, I'm going to review next Comic Corner, he's still the leader. Yep. And then we have in 248 a fight between Mondale and Star and Sunboy. Yeah, so we deal with that, and of course, basically, there's also basically a B-plot here. It's discovered basically in this issue here, right after Lightland is elected to lead the Legion. Apparently, R.J. Brando finds out he's been robbed of his fortune. Yep, he's been bankrupt, and basically he spends the next couple issues. It's basically a B-plot to whatever basically goes on with this plant monster thing. I found that part more interesting, the whole thing with, R.J. Brando, which is now revealed a little bit later. Basically, we're going with that. Mm-hmm. And the awesomest day is 250. Yep. And you might be curious though, like, okay, then we have like, oh yeah, someone's betrayed us, and yeah, who is this guy mysterious in the mask? They don't really say who this person is. Well, there's stuff with Monel, and of course leads into 251, which is basically a lot of people. And it's almost like the Roger Gibrano stuff is basically put aside for a couple issues because of this Lawman stuff. And then we have 252 comes around. Yep. And they apparently have the IRS, the futuristic version of Irish trying to go into forcibly in Arjumano's home because his fortune's gone. Yep. Then we have these newcomers for 253 who try to kill the Legion. And that would lead to a two-parter, which is DC Comics Presents issues 13 and 14, which basically involves Legion. And, of course, present-day stuff with Superman. I think it's great they included this. I mean, why not? I mean, he does all the Legion, so why not? And a madman shall lead them. Yeah, then we go to 254. Where basically that's when they find out that Arjumano's basically company has been bankrupt. And, well, then they finally investigate. So after about 4 or 5 issues, basically, this time around, they finally found out who was responsible for stealing his fortune. And you're thinking, who? Who was responsible for stealing the fortune? Well, that's now revealed to the very next issue. Issue 255. Well, who was responsible for stealing his money? And of course, there was time travel stuff in here. Like, who is responsible? Well, I thought that was, nope, not that. So basically, he's still trying to figure out who is responsible for stealing his money. And you probably thinking, do the Legion find out who's responsible? Well, basically, they kind of put on the rest because of basically assassins. And of course, they, not yet per se, I think it's resolved by 258, I think it is. Yeah, that's when they finally unveil who was responsible for stealing the money. Basically, it's the president of Earth. Yep. And when they confront about it, at the evidence, yeah, he admits it. And he gets arrested. And of course, basically, like, of course, the council's like, maybe return money to you. He's like, nah, I'll make money again by myself. Keep the money. I'll survive. So will Earth. I made my first billion myself. So once more. And by God, someday we're rich again. Of course, they all clap. It's a nice thing. And of course, this does get mentioned a bit later. So basically, in order to raise money, they all took a leave of absence. Yeah, and then stuff all Starboy and Starman, and then, well, then of course, basically, and that was the last issue, 258. That was the last one of the name Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. Because with this issue here, 259, yeah, this is the end of Superboy's time with the Legion, and I'll reveal the reason for that. So, yeah, he finds out because the whole thing with R.J. Brand, they kind of wrap up that plot thread there. Yeah, he finds out about the future involving his parents, and he decides to go back to the present. And he, at this point in time, he never returns to the future ever again. This version of Superman, aka Superboy, never returns. Now, what happens with the 2 books basically coming forward? Well, in the case of Superboy, he gets a brand number one. He got a brand new volume that lasted for 57 issues. The first 37 done by Cary Bates. The Legion book, mind you, despite the fact Superboy had been dropped from the tail, will continue on for quite a while under this numbering. So I guess DC felt as though they should probably keep numbering going, have Superboy basically be his own separate book at this point in time. Yes. That's pretty much probably the reason for it. If I get a chance to meet Cary Bates, I will probably ask him that very good question related to Legion. Because 258 is the last one called Legion of Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes because the name is dropped in the title. It's first referred to as Legion of Superheroes Volume 2. Now, like I said, Cary Bates does do the first 37 issues. Who does the rest, per se, you might be asking? Well, yeah, Paul Kupperberg done with issue 38. Yep. Yeah, he comes on with 38, and let's see. Actually, I think Cary Bates is 35. 36 is started by Paul Kupperberg, and he does pretty much up until 54. Yep, he doesn't even do, 54. Yeah, that's where the book ends. I thought it was actually 57, my mistake. Yeah, 54 issues. But you're probably thinking, okay, what about the Legion book? Well, that is something else altogether. And here's the strange thing about Superboy. Basically this teenage version of Superman. Yeah, pretty much at the Crisis. His last issue was released in June of 1984. And there would be another Superboy published book right after this one. But it would not involve this character. Nope. Volume 3. If you're curious, though, about the book. 3 itself was a tie-in to the Superboy TV show. Yep, and it had nothing to do with the main continuity. Yep. Now you might be asking, was the Superboy book, the relaunch, was that good? Yes. Yes, it was. I read it. It's actually a really good book. At the time, I pretty much read all the issues but one because the website basically I was reading from didn't have all the issues yet. So, yeah. So basically, at this point in time, yeah. As for the final appearance of the pre-crisis Superboy, which is basically Clark Kent, my final thoughts on his time with the Legion, who he has been there since pretty much Legion's debut. My only guess is because the reason why they did this because Legion are popular enough they don't need Superboy, so they set it right up get his own spin-off book. Oh, and by the way, in case you're curious though, is the stuff of Legion actually mentioned in the Superboy book? I don't remember if it is or not. I honestly do not remember, but in the case of this book in particular, I give this book a 10 out of 10. It is an excellent book. And I do recommend it if you are fans of the Legion of Superheroes. And the next Comic Corner I will do will discuss the very next trade. Now, we are moving on to some Iron Man. Yep. I am Iron Man. Yep. Now, before we start with the main trade, come on, stop it here. Sorry about that. So, basically, we are discussing first issues 212 to 214. Now, there is an epic collection called Stark Wars, which collected from 212 to 232. I've actually read most of that trade already, so I didn't really need to review that one. So, mostly put it for issues 212 to 214. These issues were released back in the late, I think it was late 80s, I think it was. I think it was early 80s. Yep. So, basically, this is stuff leading up to the whole Armor War stuff. And you have Tony Stark in his silver Stantorian armor. Yep. Yeah, mostly put Tony just dealing with another Ironmonger for issue 212. That's most what it is. And the next couple of issues, he teams up with Dominic Fortune. Yep, that's pretty much what the issues are. I think the two-part between the two of them is excellent. And I give those 3 issues a 9.5 out of 10. Next up we have is, well, aside from 3 issues, we have Iron Man Epic Collection, volume number... it doesn't list the volume number. Let's see. I think this is volume number... I have to probably look it up on here. Let's see. This is number 14. Yep, 14. Now, for this particular book in particular, the reason why I picked this book next over, let's say, a different one, because it fills the gap between Armor Wars 1 and the Dune trade I reviewed in a previous Comic Corner. This book in particular collects Iron Man Crash. It's a one-shot release in 1988. It also collects Iron Man 233, the 244, along with Mara Fanfare, 22, 23, and 44. Yep. Now, in these issues, now Crash, now I should point out the writers. We have Mike Stantz, Dave Michelini, Bob Layton, Ken Stacy, and Rod McInnes. Artwork, Gordon Matsanis, Booch Goose, Dan Cohen, Alan Kupperberg, who is about Paul Kupperberg, Bob Layton, Ken Stacy, Henry Leclerc, Bob Downs, Dave Simmons, Mercy Suri, Gavin Curtis, James Brooke, and Co. Yes, so basically Crash is just Tony Stark dealing with some computer stuff. Yeah, that's the best way to describe this issue. It has some weird artwork. Yes, it is by far really weird artwork. But going with the main book in particular, I think it was 2, let's see, I'm going to look up on here because I want to be sure I get this correct here. Alright, here we go. Yes, now 233 is an introduction to Kathleen Dare. Tony Stark's love interest in these issues. Yep. Yeah, it's his girlfriend. She appears mostly in these issues in particular, and she is basically able to flirt with him or to have sex with him. The final issue seen this trade here, issue 244, she shoots him and puts him in a wheelchair for about 5 years. Yeah, it takes him until Iron Man fights Ultimo for him to get out of that damn wheelchair. Yep. Shooting happens in 242. That's where he gets shot. Yep. Now, in the case of Ghost does not appear for a little bit here. Mostly it's just basically the first issue you have guest appearance by Ant-Man. Well, the Scott Lang version, that's mostly what that issue is. And teaming up with whatever stuff here. 244 through 234. Team with Iron Man to take on the Radioactive Man. 233 takes on the Grey Gargoyle for about a couple issues. And then you have he goes to space, deals with Mutate Killer for 238. He basically deals with Rhino, Blizzard, and Ghost. Then you have a death of Whitney Frost in these issues. Yep, just a clone of... Now, I think it was implied to be her, but basically, yeah, this is just a duplicate. Who premiered in Marvel Premiere 55. That's where she first showed up. Yeah, it's basically a story that features, of all people, Wonder Man. Yep. But I love the stuff with Rhino here. It's interesting. Yeah, and of course the whole thing with Return of Ghost that basically happens mostly in 238. Now I've talked to Late about the Ghost. I prefer his version over the newer version they have, where he's much more slimmer down. Yeah, and I show what he looks like, and he's not happy with the fact. So basically, just you have these issues miniatures. Basically, Iron Man versus some of his foes. You have Backlash, Blizzard, Boomerang, Ghost, him team with them, and just great classic Iron Man stuff. Then you take him to Mandarin, which it takes him on for a couple issues. And then, 243, he's rushed to the hospital. Because at the end of 244, 242, he gets shot by his girlfriend. For reasons that's not really explained. Then pretty much the more fan for issues is simply him versus Dr. Octopus for 2 issues. As for the other issue, 44... this issue, it's just him basically dealing with Doctor Doom stuff. Yeah. One thing I love about Raw Panther, the main book, is that Ken Stacy had fantastic cover art. This also was the first appearance of Avro X, who actually returned for the most recent run for Iron Man, who's no longer alive. Yeah, he didn't really appear very much. After this debut issue, he didn't return until he popped up in Christopher Chanwell's run for Iron Man. Yep. But this book in particular, it's really good. My friend Edgar would be happy if I got even more Iron Man. Yep. I'm going to give this trade here I give it a 10 out of 10. It's awesome. Okay, so that's a particular view, and that's definitely it for videos tonight, because I have no more time videos tonight. So tomorrow, well, a Comic Corner, Kamen Rider, hopefully get a chance to do Demon Slayer, and maybe another Kamen Rider, maybe. Okay, next video. Bye.